Right, so I'm going to review American Skin by Nate Parker. And the way I'm going to do this is the first part of the video is going to be all non-spoilers. And then once I get to the spoiler section, I'll let y'all know for those of you that don't want anything spoiled. So, like I said, it was directed by Nate Parker. And let's get right to it and address the elephant in the room because this movie been getting a lot of criticism. And I don't think it's deserved. Matter of fact, I know it's not deserved because the criticism is coming from a place of personal hate to Nate Parker. And if you go to Rotten Tomatoes right now, it has about a 14% approval rating. It moves anywhere between 14% to 31%, and that's not the only site. It's really getting panned by all these movie critic sites, and it really stems from two different reasons. Um, the first reason is that this movie and a lot of Nate Parker movies deal with racial bias. And the second reason is because of the sexual assault allegations that was levied towards Nate Parker right before the release of A Birth of a Nation. Now, if you remember, Nate Parker movie A Birth of a Nation that came out a few years ago, which was a flip on the original Birth of a Nation movie that brought about the resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan in the early 1900s. Right before that movie came out, there was a lot of buzz about it. It was supposed to do all these numbers, but right before it came out, he got Me Too. There was a rape allegation, and if you go on some of these sites, that is what they cite right now. They saying that, oh, why is Nate Parker and Roman Polanski allowed to make movies? They really comparing Nate Parker to Roman Polanski, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's a really terrible comparison because Nate Parker never went to trial. He wasn't found guilty. And we don't know what happened in that situation. Sexual assault allegations are very serious. I'm not a person that defend people I like no matter what, far from it. I don't think anybody's above criticism. And if you did something as heinous as rape, even if I like you, I'm not going to defend you. But the reason why comparing him to Roman Polanski is so ridiculous is because Polanski actually went to trial and he was sentenced for drugging and raping a 13-year-old girl. Now, Polanski did this. I mean, it went to trial. He was convicted. There's not a shadow of a doubt that he did this act. And he was able to get away by fleeing to Europe. Now, on Nate Parker, on the other hand, never went to trial. We don't know what happened in his situation. It's allegations. Nate Parker denies the allegations, and that's where we at with that. So to compare him to Polanski just shows some of the bias that people have. And I'm glad that society is taking sexual assault serious, or at least more serious than they did in the past. That's a great thing, but it doesn't mean that we automatically gonna believe every allegation that come out. We have to go case by case. You gotta look at the evidence. I'm not saying the lady that accused Nate Parker is lying. I don't know if she's lying, but I also don't know if she's telling the truth either. I don't know. I wasn't there. Haven't went to trial. I don't know because we can't act like there haven't been cases of false allegations. There have been plenty, especially when it comes to black men. So um, I'm just going to leave it at that. And if that's the reason why you hate on the movie, I think it's really faulty logic, especially because some of these same people support people that did heinous things in Hollywood. They didn't forgave Mel Gibson for the abuse that he levied towards his ex-wife. So, I that's where I'm at on that, and that's one of the reasons why people are panning this movie is because of those allegations. But really, I think it have to do more towards the content of his movies because it really, really hits on the racial dynamics that's going on in this country. And a lot of people just don't want to talk about that. I read somewhere that the movie was preachy and this is what tearing apart our society. So you have a lot of criticism because of that as well. Now, let me get off that and actually get into speaking on the movie itself. Overall, I really like this movie. It hits on a topic that needs to be in the forefront of our consciousness because it's a continuous problem that hasn't gotten better at all. The movie centers around police brutality and the unarmed killing of a young black teen. So that's what the movie stemmed from. That's no spoiler because that happens right when the movie starts. And I think if you read anything about the previews, you know that part already. So it also deals with some other issues that um, need to be talked about as well. It deals with veterans issues, what veterans go through when they come back from war or just when they get out of service and the difficulties of adjusting. And to me, as a veteran, somebody that was in the military, now granted, I didn't go to Afghanistan or Iraq, thankfully, but I can recognize that because I also used to work at the VA and I did disability claims for veterans as well. So I kind of recognize some of the signs in that movie too, dealing with PTSD, dealing with trying to get jobs. Like I recognized it and I appreciate that part as well because it was real life and I thought they put that off well. Now, while I liked the movie, it wasn't perfect. Sometimes there were just rapid changes, and I'm just like, oh, that went from here to here kind of rapidly. I don't know if it would happen like that in real life. There's a few scenes I was like, I just don't think that's realistic. But overall, it's good. If you haven't seen the movie, see it. Definitely see it. Definitely recommend you do that. Now, on to the spoilers. So, if you haven't seen this movie, you don't want anything spoiled, come back to this video after you watch American Skin. All right. So I kind of like how the movie gets right to the point right off the bat with the police stop. They didn't drag it out. They didn't make you wait to the middle of the movie. Nah, right from the beginning, we know what it's about. Nate Parker played a character named Lincoln Jefferson, a former Marine that came back, wasn't able to get the job he wanted, wasn't able to really adjust to civilian life like he wanted to. Couldn't make the relationship with his wife work, but him and his wife, um, I guess now it would be his ex-wife, was still cordial, and they still had a relationship where they could co-parent their son. So um, that is real, like I was saying before. Coming back from military, I've seen it a lot where people have a hard time adjusting just because so much stuff is taken care of for you. You don't have to worry about rent. You don't have to worry about food. Um, so much stuff in the military is taken care of. You don't have to really worry about healthcare at all. You have a problem, you go to the military hospital on base. So it's a major adjustment when you're going back to the civilian world and just doesn't work like that. Things doesn't work like that at all. So, and also a lot of times depending on your job, if you something like infantry, a lot of those skills a lot of times don't carry over to a career on the outside. unless you want to do something like police work or something like that. But if you've been in the military for infantry, yes, you have the leadership skills, but what civilian job are you going to get? And oftentimes that is a problem. Granted, you have the GI Bill, but if you don't want to go to college or if you want to pass it to a family member, because now you got the option to do that, it's tough. And I just love his relationship with his son because, that's real too, because teenagers swear they know everything, right? And what Lincoln was trying to tell his son is yes, you are right in certain instances, but that's not really how reality worked because his son was quoting Supreme Court case studies about how we have rights to this and we have rights to that. And Lincoln was telling him, like, yes, you are right, technically. And he was telling his friend that too. And I'm glad that he had his friend on the conversation too. Yes, that's what it states, but in reality, it doesn't work like that for people that look like us. And I love that. That's a conversation that black people we have to have all the time. You know, and I feel like some of the people that gave it bad reviews probably just can't relate to that. And that's just one aspect of it. Um, and being the fact that his son didn't listen to him, even though his son was in the right, he shouldn't have got murdered at all. I mean, it was ridiculous the way the cop shot him. Um, it just goes to show you that sometimes when teenagers are at that age and they don't want to listen, sometimes it can lead to disastrous outcomes. Another character that I really liked was Amari Howard character, and his character was named Omar Scott, right? And you could tell he had PTSD going back to the military. He served with Lincoln and the Marines and the infantry. In infantry, he has cancer. He just came back from chemo, but he doesn't want to do chemo no more. And he's in a sad situation, and he down to ride with Lincoln, whatever he want to do. So after Kanaiji was murdered, these college students show up and they want to do a documentary for their class about what happened to Lincoln's son. And so much of the aftermath is reality. Like they had a black officer come in because the cop was found not guilty, no charges, no consequences. And I say this all the time: you need to get rid of qualified immunity. And they just look at these cases like whatever the cop do is right if it's done to a black person. And that is shown very clearly. It showed the aftermath of riots, and it was interesting. A black cop showed up, and oftentimes this was happen. They will send a black person there to try to smooth stuff over. But you had one of the family members, one of Kanaji cousins, like, nah, he wasn't having it. He was cursing the police officer out. It was almost another incident. So it was just a real scene. And also what was real too, the cop actually convinced the mother to get on TV and just say, okay, let's calm down. And that's what they often do too. They often get a family member to get on TV and say that, let's forgive and let's pray it away. And nah, we kind of sick of that. And I think this movie shows that clearly. Now, here is something that I don't know if I loved or I don't know what was up with this. Like it goes from nowhere, kind of like out of nowhere. he taking the college students that was doing the documentary, and you just see them kidnap the black cop. I'm just like, where did this come from? When he pulled him out, the cop didn't have any handcuffs or flexi ties on, nothing. And I was just like, huh, this kind of happened out of nowhere. So yeah, I didn't know how they was able to just do that, and they had all sorts of weaponry. They had it like they was still in the military. Um, One of the things that I didn't like, they kind of basically they kidnapped the college students and forced them to be a part of it, even though they didn't want to. I didn't really like that because you kind of making them accessory, or if things went sideways, you putting their life in danger, and they wasn't down for that. So I didn't like the fact that they brung the college students, and I get it because they wanted to film, and he wanted a real dialogue to go out, which I respect that. But your boys, they were down for the cause. They was down to do it. They volunteered. These college students didn't do that, so I wasn't necessarily feeling that part. They took over the police station, and what I didn't understand, I don't think you would have been able to do that without any casualties happening. But somehow they was able to do that without nobody being killed. Which, you know, um, okay, I'll just suspend my disbelief when it comes to that, I guess. So another thing is, they had civilians in the police station, and they used them to be in the jury, right? They actually worked in the police station. Why would you think they would be objective? They probably would just side with the cops. So the whole point is that, they had the cop that killed his kid, he put him on trial because he wanted to do a real trial. I do like some parts of it where the cop was like, there's not one cop on here. This is not a jury of my peer. And then basically he was just like, yeah, now welcome to my world. See what we go, which is true because oftentimes in these cases, um, who trying these cops or who trying us, it's not people that look like us. So I did like that part. Um, Another part that was kind of weird to me, where not only he had the civilians as part of the jury, but also the people that was in lockup in the jail there, and one of them was a Latino guy, and he was arguing with another Latino cop. They speak Spanish, but they had no subtitles. I'm like, okay, this is good for people that know Spanish, but I don't know Spanish, so I don't know what they saying. I was surprised they didn't do any subtitles there, but that's a minor point. It's not nothing to kill the movie to me. Um, but just the way the jury worked, where the basically most of the white jurors wanted to find him not guilty, and somehow the other jurors were able to convince them otherwise. In real life, I think they would have needed a little bit more convincing. I don't know how they was able just to throw out, especially this one lady, because she definitely seemed like she had major racial bias. This one white lady there. I don't know how they was going to be able to convince her in real life like that. But that's one. Also, the college student that was filming, he he seemed like he's from the middle class, and I guess he knows racism, know the black struggle, but don't really know it like a lot of us will know it. And he seemed to want to have idealistic vision of what can be, and Lincoln was just way past that. You know, But he kind of expressed that when it seemed like he was the one that convinced everybody to find this cop guilty. Another thing that I noticed, I'm like, everybody is so calm to be in this crazy situation, right? The people in the jury, they were just so calm to be doing this and just like, this is not normal, and the SWAT can come in at any time, you know. Um, but they found him guilty, and I thought Lincoln was going to execute him, but he didn't. He pulled the trigger, but there was no bullets in there, and they had kind of like bonding, and the cops saw the error of his ways. I'm just like, that's the part of the movie where I kind of was like, this is not what would happen at all. Um, they kind of understood each other. I know the point of the movie was kind of like, okay, let's have these discussions so we can understand each other. But the way it happened in the movie, I just can't wrap my head around it on both parts. You know, if you have that opportunity to do something to somebody that kills your son for no good reason, I don't know if you can get over it that easy. I'm not saying he got over it, but you'll be able just to be like, okay, I see you sorry, it's okay. And if somebody had that much of racial bias where he admit to profiling y'all and all throughout showed no remorse, showed that um, he thought he was right for profiling, I don't know if he could just have a rapid change apart like that, even though he thought he was going to die. I just don't think it would happen like that. But one thing that happens as soon as he came out, we kind of knew Lincoln wasn't going to survive this ordeal, and they didn't even waste time with that. It happened right away. Um, like I said, it was a good movie overall, but I wish I would have seen a little bit of the aftermath. Like, did his crew survive? Did Omar survive? What happened when SWAT came in? What happened to the prisoners? Did any of them get hurt? Also, I would like to see if they was filming the whole time, especially if they was filming the jury, what the public reaction would have been to the project. But they left that to the imagination. So I would have liked to see a little bit more about aftermath, but that's just me. But overall, this is a movie that definitely is worth seeing. You should see it. It had me engaged the entire time, even with some of the criticisms I do have of it. And that's just me personally. You know, that's just some of the things that didn't sit right with me. Overall, I like the movie. Like I said, it kept my attention from beginning to the end. Great discussion, a discussion that need to be happening. We need to see this more on the mainstream. And again, don't believe all those biased negative reviews. Check it out for yourself. This is Amin signing off for Say What I Mean. Make sure you subscribe, like, share. Peace.